Let's welcome in former Spurs forward Darren Bent. Darren, how are Spurs fans going to be feeling right now about this appointment? Happy, not happy?
I think they've got to be, you have to say they're probably happy in terms of that they've finally got a manager. It was a little bit of a farce, the whole fiasco, in terms of going through every single manager that was out there and not managing to get one. It was all public, which I think was wrong. But as you said there, Nuno was one of the first ones that they kind of spoke to. Didn't work out. They went through all the other managers, and they finally ended up back at Nuno. But I think for Spurs fans, you'd have to say, finally, they've got someone who's in charge now, someone who can make decisions, and at least they're now going in a sense of direction. Because at one stage, we didn't know if their best player was going to leave. We didn't know who was in charge. We didn't know what was going to happen next. So I think at least the first part's done. They've got a manager, and it's now what happens after this.
Bent, has this maybe been a good thing for Nuno, in the fact that obviously, something obviously broke down, and now after trying everybody, they've gone back to him. Has he maybe had quite a strong hand in this, and maybe has said, well, actually, look, if I'm going to take this job now, I want this money to spend, or I want these transfer targets bringing in. So that, in that way, it could actually be a positive for Spurs.
It could be, yeah, because as you said, because first and foremost, you've got someone who looks like, obviously, you've come back to him. He obviously clearly wants the job, is desperate for the job, because, as you said there, on the second time of asking, he's ended up getting the job. But you're right, in terms of from Nuno, it's really, really positive, because surely he would have known, after talks initially broke down with him, and they interviewed all these other managers, and they still didn't appoint anyone, his position was getting stronger and stronger, because they couldn't then go back to him and then say, well, we're still not going to give you what you want, but we want you to manage. Something would have had to give. So whether that was, if we sell Harry Kane, I want this much to spend, or what funds are available for me to go and bring in new players, there must have been some form of guarantees. And I'm a big Nuno fan. I like him. I know he's a very pragmatic manager. And we know Spurs fans, certainly since Pochettino left, the football Mourinho was playing, had a bit of a moan up. But I think now they've got to accept that he's now the manager, and they've got to fully get behind him.
I was going to ask that question as the next one. Like, where are you with Nuno? I think, look, Wolves play some good football. Obviously, everyone likens them to Portugal because of the link with the Portuguese team and the way in which they play, and George Mendes. But where are you with Nuno as a manager? Top manager for you? Still up and coming? Where does he sit with you?
He's a very good manager. Obviously, I can't put him in the top bracket, of course, but he's a very, very good manager in terms of, you're right, I think Wolves had 2 7th-place finishes, and then they finished, I think, 12th or something. So, obviously, but there was no coincidence in that. When you lose, obviously, your centre-forward, the unfortunate head injury, Diogo Jota, he leaves. Obviously, he was really kind of key to the way they played. There was injuries. Adama Traore's form completely went. When you start putting all these things, and Wolves didn't have the biggest squad anyway, so when you start taking these pieces out, of course they were going to struggle, but I still think he can attract good players. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes to Wolves and tries to nick 1 or 2 of their players, because I think 1 or 2 of their players would do well at Spurs.
Darren, I said Conor Cody would be one that he'd probably be looking at. The fact that he likes to play a back 3. Doherty obviously is a better wing back than a full back, and Tottenham certainly need some defenders, don't they?
100%. And even if you look at, if they manage to convince Harry Kane to stay, which I don't think they'll be able to. I think his mind's already made up. You start looking for there's a gap there. But even someone like Adama Traore, because obviously we know Heung-min Son plays from the left. He's been brilliant since the moment he got to Spurs. They've never really filled that right-hand side void. They tried Bale. You have to say that didn't really work out. They bought Bergwijn. He's not really worked out. Lucas Moura's had stints over there. So maybe getting Adama Traore, he can go and play out there. So I just hope that now they've got a manager in there and they give it to Nuno, that they actually back him, because that squad there, Spurs' squad, needs a massive overhaul, because it's an aging squad, and they've got to freshen it up a little bit.
Benty, I've said as well, it might sort of help the Harry Kane deal, because Daniel Levy was saying, look, I just want cash only, not interested in players, because he didn't have a manager, because he didn't know what sort of players the manager wanted. Maybe now, let's assume it is Manchester City. Nuno can say, right, okay, we'll have 100 million, and I want 2 players. I want Riyad Mahrez as part of that deal, or whoever it might be.
Yeah, it was,
or I want Jesus.
We're hearing it was Laporte, Jesus, and Sterling.
But it's now the manager's decision, and he might want one of those players. And if he does, then 100 million plus one of those players, and give him 50 of that 100 to spend. Suddenly you're thinking, well, actually, Tottenham could have a decent squad.
They could, yeah. I mean, I don't think you'd be able to get someone like a Mahrez is quite, but you've got to think whatever player. I mean, unless it's like the Nathan Ake's or people that are really on the fringes of that Manchester City squad, you have to think if they're going to get 100 million, and a Laporte or a Sterling or even a Gabriel Jesus. I know he's no Harry Kane, I fully understand that, but I think he's more than capable of kind of filling the void while they look for other pieces. Do you know what I mean? He's never really been given an extended run, but I think he's never going to be able to replace Harry Kane, I understand that. But he fills a void, and as you said, if they give him 15 million as well, or 75 million to go and bring in other players, that might just sweeten the deal a little bit and help Spurs, as you said, start rebuilding that squad.
Benty, we know how important Harry Kane is to that squad and just to Tottenham in general. Would he have spoken to Harry Kane already, Nuno? Do you think a conversation between the two has been had already?
I'm not quite sure quite yet. I'm sure Harry Kane would have been aware who was coming in, but I don't think he would have had conversations with the new manager yet, because at the end of the day, Harry's got a job to do for England. Now, that's quite an important conversation to have when he hasn't really got the time for it. Do you know what I mean? He's trying to focus on his own form. He hasn't been great in these Euros. He's just got his first goal yesterday. And then if you've got a new manager coming in trying to convince him to stay, I just think the timing's all wrong. So I'm not quite sure he would have had that conversation. I certainly wouldn't have wanted it yet.
What's success for Spurs next season, do you think? What are they going to be thinking under this new manager if Harry Kane does go in? Yeah, we don't know the replacements that might come in. By the way, I think Raul Jimenez, if he has fully healed from that head injury, could be a fantastic number 9 for Spurs, but that's if he has healed properly. What success? Top 6? European place? What's top 6 now?
Yeah, if they lose Harry Kane, and listen, I don't think Wolves would let their manager go and just raid the club and take all their best players, because that would leave Wolves in a worse state than Spurs, you'd have to say. But I think for Spurs, if they lose Harry Kane, if they can still somehow finish in the Europa League spots, I think that would be a really successful season, I really do.
All right, Benty, thank you very much. Former Spurs striker Darren Bent there saying, Mills, it's a good signing, right? I mean, Nuno coming over, and Benty spoke about the fact that, you know, under Nuno, Wolves finished 7th. They've got into Europe. Yes, this season was a sticky season, but to be fair, everyone had bad seasons this season apart from a few clubs.
Yeah, two 7th top place finishes. You know, in your first 2 seasons in the Premier League. You know, good relationship with Jorge Mendes and lots of Portuguese players. So he can attract players. He can bring players in. I think, you know,
what broke down at Wolves then? Because it looked like he was building something there. We just mentioned the likes of Traore and Jimenez and what they had at the back, and Conor Cody as captain.
You lose Doherty, you lose Jota, and you lose Jimenez in a very, very short space of time, and they weren't replaced. You know, Jota was penultimate day of the transfer window, pretty much.
Surprised a lot of Liverpool fans when it happened.
So you suddenly, you know, that's your playmaker. And look at the start he made at Liverpool. He was fantastic. Then you lose Raul Jimenez, your centre forward, and that's
20+ goals a season gone right there.
Well, that's the equivalent of Tottenham losing Harry Kane for the season. You know, you're struggling big time. You know, you can't. Not many teams can deal with that. And then because you lost your right wing back, you've then got to maybe tweak the formation and change that slightly. So there was lots of things thrown into the mix. Adama Traore's form just plummeted. You know, from suddenly being, you know, strong, powerful, quick, and having an end product. The strong, powerful, quick sort of disappeared, never went past anybody, never ran past anybody, never created a chance, never scored a goal all of a sudden. Just, for whatever reason, just disappeared almost off the face of the planet. So, but you've got Son, you've got Bergwijn, you've got a lot of good players in that Tottenham squad that play good football.
Look, Tottenham never let us know who they were speaking to when it come to managerial appointments, but he clearly wasn't the first choice. I think that's fair to say. He wouldn't have been the first choice for Daniel Levy. Does that matter? Should that matter that they've not gone out and got the man they wanted?
Well, he was the first choice.
First interview.
And then he wasn't. Yeah, but did he turn them down at that stage? Did he say, well, no, actually, it's not quite right for me?
Well, they would have wanted Conte. They could have got Conte. Pochettino coming back would have been.
But they'd have had to.
Than that
if
well,
Conte
surely.
comes in, you're going, right, going to have to pay him a fortune and then bring loads of players in and spend loads of money. Daniel Levy's not going to do that. So we don't know. Maybe it was Nuno that said earlier, no, I want this. And they went, no, you can't have it. He went, I'm not doing a job then. Simple as that. So maybe it was Nuno that walked away.